Hello and welcome. Joseph Stalin was one of the most powerful and important leaders of the 20th century. His name is known around the world. He was the leader of the Soviet Union, a very big country, for more than 25 years. Stalin was not born rich or famous. He came from a poor family in a small town called Gori, in Georgia. As a child, he had many problems, but he worked hard and never gave up. Stalin's real name was Joseph Stalin. Later, he chose the name Stalin, which means man of steel. This name showed his strong and serious personality. He believed in working hard and being strict. Stalin wanted to make his country strong, and he did many things to change the Soviet Union. Some of these things helped the country grow. Others caused pain and fear. But no one can deny that he changed history in a big way. When Stalin was young, he read a lot of books. He studied the ideas of revolution. He wanted a better life for poor people. He joined a group called the Bolsheviks. They were fighting for change in Russia. After the Russian Revolution in 1917, the Tsar, or king, was removed. Then, the Soviet Union was born. Stalin became an important leader in this new government. After Lenin, the first Soviet leader, died in 1924, Stalin took control. It was not easy. There were many powerful men. But Stalin was smart and patient. Slowly, he became the top leader. He made big plans to build factories, grow the army, and make the country modern. His rule was strict and sometimes cruel, but it also brought many changes. During World War II, Stalin became a hero to many people. The Soviet Union helped to defeat Nazi Germany. Millions of soldiers and people died, but Stalin's leadership helped win the war. After that, the Soviet Union became one of the two superpowers in the world, along with the United States. Stalin's story is not simple. It has light and dark parts. Some people remember him as a great leader who made his country strong. Others remember the fear, the prisons, and the people who disappeared. History always has many sides. But one thing is sure, Stalin was a man who changed the world. In this episode we will learn more about Stalin's life, from his childhood to his years as a powerful leader. We will hear how he rose to power, what he believed, and how he ruled. His story is full of lessons, about power, leadership, hard work, and the cost of ambition. Let us begin the journey through the life of Joseph Stalin. Chapter 1. From Gori to Revolution. Joseph Stalin was born on December 18, 1878, in a small town called Gori, in the country of Georgia. At that time, Georgia was part of the Russian Empire. His real name was Joseph Stalin. Later in life, he changed his name to Joseph Stalin, which means man of steel. Stalin's family was very poor. His father was a shoemaker, but he drank too much and was often angry. His mother was kind and wanted a better life for her son. She worked hard to send young Joseph to school. She dreamed that he would become a priest one day. As a boy, Joseph was small and quiet. He got sick many times. He had a bad arm because of an accident, and he got smallpox, which left scars on his face. But he was a good student. He loved to read and learn. His favorite subjects were history and literature. He read books about strong leaders and big ideas. Slowly, he became interested in politics and revolution. When Stalin was about 15 years old, he went to a religious school in Tiflis, the capital city of Georgia. There, he started reading books that were not allowed by the school. These books talked about freedom, workers' rights, and changing the government. He read the works of Karl Marx, who believed that poor people should fight for a better life. Joseph liked these ideas. He left the school before finishing. Some say he was expelled because of his political beliefs. After that, he joined a secret group that wanted to fight against the Tsar, the king of Russia. He became a revolutionary. He started to write articles and give speeches. He wanted to help workers and poor people. Stalin also joined the Bolsheviks, a group led by Vladimir Lenin. The Bolsheviks wanted to start a big change in Russia. They believed the people should have the power, not the Tsar or the rich. Stalin helped organize strikes and protests. He also raised money for the cause, sometimes by robbing banks and trains. He was arrested many times and sent to prison or exile in cold places like Siberia. But he never stopped fighting. During these early years, Stalin learned how to hide from the police, how to lead people, and how to stay strong. He made many friends in the revolutionary movement. Some people liked him because he was quiet but serious. Others feared him because he was strict and would do anything to win. Stalin's journey from glory to revolution was full of struggle. He started as a poor boy in a small town and became an important voice in a big fight for change. This was just the beginning of his long and powerful story. In the next chapter, we will see how Stalin continued to rise and how he became one of the top leaders of the Bolsheviks. Chapter 2. Comrade Koba, the Rise in Bolshevism. After leaving school, Joseph Stalin became very active in revolutionary work. He believed that Russia needed big changes. He did not want kings or rich people to rule the country. He wanted power to be in the hands of workers and peasants. At this time, Stalin chose a secret name, Koba. This name came from a strong hero in a Georgian story. Koba was brave, loyal, and never gave up. Stalin wanted to be just like him. As Comrade Koba, Stalin became a leader in the underground movement. He worked for the Bolsheviks, a group of revolutionaries led by Vladimir Lenin. The Bolsheviks believed in the ideas of Karl Marx. They wanted to fight for the poor and take down the government of the Tsar, the ruler of Russia. Stalin did many things for the Bolsheviks. He helped to plan secret meetings. He wrote articles for revolutionary newspapers. He also organized strikes and protests in cities like Tiflis and Baku. Sometimes, he had to move from place to place to avoid the police. He used many fake names and wore disguises. One of Stalin's main jobs was to collect money for the revolution. He did this by robbing banks and stealing from government offices. In 1907, he helped plan a big robbery in Tiflis. His group attacked a carriage full of money using bombs and guns. Several people were killed, but the Bolsheviks got a large amount of money. This helped their movement, but it also made Stalin more dangerous in the eyes of the law. Stalin was arrested many times by the police. He was sent to prison and to cold, faraway places in Siberia. But each time he escaped or returned when he was free. His time in prison made him stronger. He read more books, learned more about Marxism, and planned for the future. Even in exile, Stalin stayed loyal to Lenin and the Bolsheviks. As the years passed, Stalin became more important in the party. He was not a good speaker like Lenin or Trotsky, but he was a good organizer. He worked quietly, but effectively. He built strong connections with other party members. People trusted him because he was serious and focused. In 1912, Lenin made Stalin a member of the Bolshevik Central Committee. This was a big step for Stalin. He now had more power and was close to the top leaders. He also started to write about national issues, especially about the rights of small nations like Georgia, his homeland. Lenin liked Stalin's ideas and gave him more responsibility. Stalin's rise in the Bolshevik Party was not fast, but it was steady. He showed courage, loyalty, and discipline. He was ready to do anything for the revolution. The name, Comrade Koba, became known in many parts of Russia. In the next chapter, we will see how Stalin and the Bolsheviks moved from planning revolution to making it happen, the time of civil war and great change. Chapter 3. Revolution and Civil War. In 1917, big changes came to Russia. People were tired of war, hunger, and the rule of the Tsar. Many workers and soldiers protested in the streets. They wanted food, peace, and a better life. In March 1917, the Tsar gave up his power. A new government was formed, but it was weak. The Bolsheviks, including Joseph Stalin, saw a chance to take control. Stalin came back to Petrograd, now called St. Petersburg, and joined the other leaders of the Bolshevik Party. Vladimir Lenin was the main leader. He said the people should take power right away. Stalin agreed. He worked hard to spread this message. He helped edit the party newspaper and organized workers and soldiers. In October 1917, the Bolsheviks took over the government in a quick and almost bloodless action. This was called the October Revolution. They took control of banks, railways, and important buildings. Lenin became the head of the new government. Stalin was given a job as People's Commissar for Nationalities. This job was important because Russia had many different ethnic groups and languages. Stalin had to keep these groups united. But not everyone was happy with the Bolsheviks. Many people, including former Tsar supporters, landowners, and other political groups, began to fight against them. This started the Russian Civil War, which lasted from 1918 to 1921. It was a hard and violent time. The Bolsheviks were known as the Reds, and their enemies were called the Whites. Stalin played a strong role in the Civil War. He was sent to lead the Red Army in different parts of the country. In Tsaritsyn, later called Stalingrad, he showed how tough and strict he could be. He did not always follow orders from other leaders. Sometimes he made harsh decisions, but he helped win battles. Lenin trusted Stalin's ability to get things done. The Civil War was very cruel. Both sides did terrible things. Many people died, and the country was left poor and broken. But in the end, the Bolsheviks won. Stalin was now seen as a hero by many in the party. He had shown leadership, courage, and loyalty. During the war, Stalin also got closer to other powerful leaders. He had many disagreements with Leon Trotsky, another top Bolshevik who led the Red Army. Trotsky was a great speaker and thinker, but Stalin was a careful planner and a strong organizer. These differences would become more important later. After the Civil War, the Bolsheviks changed the name of the country to the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, USSR. It was now a communist country, with Lenin as its leader. Stalin continued to rise in power. He became General Secretary of the Communist Party in 1922, a position that would help him control the whole party later. The revolution and civil war changed Stalin's life forever. He was no longer just Comrade Koba, the fighter. He was now a key leader in a new and powerful country. In the next chapter, we will see what happened after Lenin's death, and how Stalin became the most powerful man in the Soviet Union. Chapter 4. The Power Struggle After Lenin. In 1924, Vladimir Lenin, the great leader of the Bolsheviks and the Soviet Union, died. His death left a big question: who would lead the country now? Lenin had led the revolution and the Civil War. He was respected by everyone. After his death, many powerful men in the Communist Party wanted to become the next leader. One of them was Joseph Stalin. At the time of Lenin's death, Stalin was already General Secretary of the Communist Party. This job did not seem very important, but it gave Stalin a lot of power. He controlled the party's records and chose who got jobs in the government. Slowly, he used this power to make his position stronger. Before Lenin died, he had written a letter. In that letter, he said that Stalin was too rude and had too much power. He warned the party to be careful with Stalin. Lenin also spoke well of Leon Trotsky, another top leader. Trotsky was smart, a great speaker, and had led the Red Army during the Civil War. Many people thought Trotsky would be the next leader. But Stalin was clever. He did not fight Trotsky directly at first. Instead, he worked behind the scenes. He made alliances with other leaders like Grigory Zinoviev and Lev Kamenev. Together, they began to criticize Trotsky and made him look bad in front of the party. They said Trotsky was too proud and did not respect Lenin. Trotsky made mistakes, too. He did not fight back strongly, and he missed important meetings. Slowly, he lost support. Stalin, on the other hand, was always present. He listened, watched, and made careful moves. By 1927, Trotsky was removed from the party. Later, he was sent out of the country. In 1940, he was killed in Mexico by a secret agent working for Stalin. After Trotsky was gone, Stalin turned against Zinoviev and Kamenev, the same men who had helped him before. He now said they were not loyal to the party. Soon, they were also pushed out of power. Stalin was now the strongest man in the Soviet Union. Stalin's rise to power was not quick or loud. It was slow and quiet, like a chess game. He used his position, made smart decisions, and removed his enemies one by one. He also made himself look like Lenin's true follower, even though Lenin had warned about him. By the end of the 1920s, Stalin controlled the Communist Party, the government, and the country. He was not just a member of the team anymore. He was the leader of the Soviet Union. The power struggle after Lenin showed Stalin's true skill. He was not the best speaker or the most famous revolutionary. But he was patient, smart, and determined. In the next chapter, we will see how Stalin used his power to change the Soviet Union through big plans and strict control. Chapter 5. The Great Purge begins. In the 1930s, Joseph Stalin was the most powerful man in the Soviet Union. He controlled the Communist Party, the army, the police, and the government. But Stalin was afraid. He believed that some people in the party did not support him. He thought they were trying to take his power. This fear led to one of the darkest times in Soviet history. It was called the Great Purge. The Great Purge began in 1934. At first, it started after the murder of a man named Sergei Kirov. Kirov was a popular party leader, and some people even liked him more than Stalin. When he was killed, Stalin said it was part of a plan to destroy the government. Many historians believe Stalin may have been involved in Kirov's murder to create a reason to start the purge. After Kirov's death, Stalin began to arrest thousands of people. He said they were enemies of the people. Some of them were old friends and fellow revolutionaries, like Zinoviev, Kamenev, and even officers in the army. Stalin did not want anyone who could challenge him to stay in power. People were forced to sign false confessions. They were told to say they were spies, traitors, or had helped foreign countries. Many of them were not guilty, but they were afraid. If they did not confess, they were beaten or threatened. These public confessions were shown in big trials. The trials were called show trials, because the results were already decided. Most of the people were sent to prison or killed. Stalin also ordered his secret police, the NKVD, to arrest many ordinary people: teachers, workers, artists, and even farmers. Nobody felt safe. People were afraid to speak or even think something bad about the government. Many people were taken away in the middle of the night. Families did not know where they went or if they were still alive. During this time, millions of people were arrested, and hundreds of thousands were executed. Many others were sent to gulags, which were very hard labor camps in cold, far places like Siberia. In these camps, people worked in terrible conditions. Many of them died from hunger, cold, or sickness. Even high-ranking officers in the Red Army were not safe. Stalin was afraid that the army could turn against him. He had many top generals arrested and killed. This later made the army weaker when World War II began. The Great Purge was a time of fear and silence. People stopped trusting each other. Even friends and family members were scared to speak openly. Stalin used fear as a tool to stay in power. He wanted full control, and he was ready to remove anyone who stood in his way. In the next chapter, we will see how Stalin focused on changing the economy and building the country, even while so many people were suffering under his rule. Chapter 6. Industrialization and the 5-year plans. After Stalin became the full leader of the Soviet Union, he wanted to make the country stronger and richer. He believed that the Soviet Union was far behind other countries like the United States, Britain, and Germany. Stalin once said, "We are 50 or 100 years behind the advanced countries. We must make up this gap in 10 years." To do this, he created a big plan to change the country's economy. These plans were called the 5-year plans. The first 5-year plan started in 1928. It had 2 main goals. 1. To build more factories and grow heavy industry, like coal, steel, and machines. 2. To make farming more efficient by joining small farms into large state farms. This was called collectivization. In cities and towns, many new factories were built. Workers were told to produce more and more every day. They made steel, tractors, trains, and tools. Huge construction projects started. Cities grew quickly, and new ones were built from nothing. The government set high targets, and workers had to meet them. Some people were praised as heroes for working hard. One famous worker was Alexei Stakhanov, who became a symbol of hard work and success. But life was not easy for workers. They had to work long hours, and the conditions in factories were often dangerous. Many people lived in small, crowded homes. Still, many believed they were building a better future for the country. In the countryside, things were even harder. Under collectivization, farmers were forced to give up their land and animals. The land was taken by the state and made into big farms. Many farmers did not agree with this. They were called kulaks, or rich peasants. Stalin said kulaks were enemies, and many of them were arrested or sent to prison camps. The result of collectivization was terrible. Food production dropped, and there was a great famine, especially in Ukraine, where millions of people died from hunger. Still, Stalin continued with the plan. He believed it was necessary to make the Soviet Union powerful. More 5-year plans followed. Each plan tried to grow different parts of the economy. The Soviet Union became one of the top industrial countries in the world. There were more machines, more power stations, and more transport systems. Stalin showed these changes as great successes of socialism. But this success came with a high human cost. Millions of people suffered. Many died from hunger, hard work, or were punished for not meeting targets. Still, Stalin and his government said the plans were working. They used newspapers, posters, and speeches to tell people that the Soviet Union was becoming strong and modern. The 5-year plans changed the Soviet Union forever. It went from a poor farming country to an industrial power. Stalin had achieved his goal, but at a great price. In the next chapter, we will learn more about the Gulag system and how fear and control became a part of everyday life in Stalin's Soviet Union. Chapter 7: The Gulag and State Terror. As Joseph Stalin worked to make the Soviet Union stronger, he also created a system of fear and control. People who disagreed with him or did not follow the rules were punished. Many of them were sent to prison camps. These camps were called the Gulag. The word Gulag means main camp administration in Russian, but for millions of people, it meant pain, cold, hunger, and hard work. The Gulag was not one camp. It was a network of prison camps spread all over the Soviet Union, especially in cold and faraway places like Siberia. People in the Gulag were forced to build roads, cut trees, dig for coal, and work in factories. The work was very hard. The food was bad, and the weather was often freezing. Many people got sick or died from hunger and cold. Who were sent to the Gulag? Many different people. Some were criminals, but many were not. Some were teachers, doctors, writers, or farmers. Some were arrested for small things like saying a joke about Stalin, arriving late to work, or even just being from a different country. Others were accused of being enemies of the people, with no real reason. The secret police often made people sign false confessions. Stalin used the Gulag to keep control. People were afraid to speak freely. They did not trust each other. Even family members were careful. If someone in your family was arrested, others in the family could also be punished. Children were taught in school to love Stalin and to report anyone who said bad things about the government, even their own parents. The fear of punishment was everywhere. This time was called state terror because the government used fear as a weapon. The secret police, known as the NKVD, watched everything. They listened to people's conversations and opened their letters. If they thought someone was a threat, they arrested them, often at night. People would disappear, and no one would know where they went. Writers, artists, and musicians also had to be careful. They were only allowed to create work that praised Stalin and the Soviet system. If they wrote or painted something different, they could be arrested. Many famous artists and scientists were sent to the Gulag or killed. Even people in Stalin's own government were not safe. Stalin did not trust anyone, not even his closest helpers. He thought they might try to take his power. So, many of them were also arrested or killed during the Great Purge. Life in the Soviet Union during Stalin's rule was full of fear and silence. People learned to keep their thoughts to themselves. They followed the rules, worked hard, and said only good things about Stalin, even if they were suffering inside. In the next chapter, we will look at how Stalin led the Soviet Union during World War II, and how his leadership helped to defeat one of the greatest threats the world had ever seen. Chapter 8: World War II and the Eastern Front. In 1939, the world changed again. A new war began, World War II. It was the biggest and deadliest war in history. The main enemy was Nazi Germany, led by Adolf Hitler. At first, Joseph Stalin and Hitler signed a deal called the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. In this deal, Germany and the Soviet Union agreed not to fight each other. They also secretly agreed to divide parts of Europe between them. Because of this deal, the Soviet Union took control of parts of Poland, Finland, and the Baltic countries. But this peace did not last long. On June 22, 1941, Hitler broke the agreement and sent his army to attack the Soviet Union. This was called Operation Barbarossa. It was the biggest military invasion in history. The Germans wanted to take Soviet land and destroy communism. The attack surprised Stalin. For days, he did not speak in public. But soon, he gave a strong radio speech. He told the Soviet people to defend their land and fight for their future. The war on the Soviet side was called the Great Patriotic War. In the beginning, things were very bad for the Soviet Union. The German army moved quickly and captured many cities. Millions of Soviet soldiers and people were killed or taken as prisoners. But Stalin refused to give up. He moved factories to the east so they could still make weapons. He called on the people to work hard, fight bravely, and protect the motherland. One of the most important battles was the Battle of Stalingrad, from 1942 to 1943. The Germans wanted to take the city, but Soviet soldiers and citizens fought hard. The battle lasted for months, with freezing cold and heavy bombing. In the end, the Soviet army won. It was a turning point in the war. After this, the Soviet army began to push the Germans back. Stalin also met with other world leaders, like Winston Churchill from Britain and Franklin D. Roosevelt from the United States. Together, they planned how to defeat Germany. The Soviet Union, Britain, and the US became allies during the war, even though they had different ideas about government. By 1945, the Soviet army reached Berlin, the capital of Germany. Hitler died, and Germany surrendered. The Soviet Union had won, but the price was very high. More than 20 million Soviet people died in the war. Many cities and villages were destroyed. But Stalin became a hero to many people. He was seen as the man who saved the country. After the war, the Soviet Union became one of the two most powerful countries in the world, along with the United States. Stalin had helped to defeat a great evil, but he also kept his strong control over the people. In the next chapter, we will learn how the world changed after the war, and how Stalin's rule continued during the beginning of the Cold War. Chapter 9: The Cold War and Soviet Supremacy. After World War II ended in 1945, the world hoped for peace. But soon, a new kind of conflict began. This was not a war with bombs and guns. It was a Cold War, a war of ideas, power, and fear. On one side was the Soviet Union, led by Joseph Stalin. On the other side was the United States, led by President Harry Truman. The Cold War was about two very different ways of life. The Soviet Union believed in communism, where the government controls most things. The United States believed in capitalism and freedom, where people can own businesses and speak freely. Each side wanted to spread its own system around the world. After the war, Stalin took control of many countries in Eastern Europe. These included Poland, Hungary, Romania, and East Germany. Stalin said this was for protection. But the people in these countries were not free. The Soviet army stayed there, and new communist governments were set up. This made the United States and Western Europe very worried. In 1946, British leader Winston Churchill said that an Iron Curtain had fallen across Europe. This meant that Europe was divided, free countries in the West and communist countries in the East, controlled by Stalin. It was the start of the Cold War. Stalin also wanted to show the world that the Soviet Union was a superpower. He continued to build factories, weapons, and the military. The country now had nuclear power and began making atomic bombs, just like the United States. Both sides feared each other. People were afraid that a nuclear war could begin at any time. Inside the Soviet Union, Stalin kept tight control. He did not allow any free speech or different ideas. People had to follow the government rules. If someone spoke against Stalin, they could be arrested, sent to a gulag, or killed. Newspapers, schools, and books all said that Stalin was great. His picture was everywhere. People were told that he had saved the country and made it strong. In 1949, the Soviet Union helped start a group called the Council for Mutual Economic Assistance. This was made to help communist countries trade and grow together. Stalin wanted all communist nations to follow his way. At the same time, the United States and its friends made a group called NATO to protect themselves. This made the world even more divided. Even though Stalin was very powerful, he became more paranoid in his final years. He trusted fewer and fewer people. He believed that enemies were hiding everywhere, even inside his own government. Many people close to him were removed or arrested. By the early 1950s, Stalin was seen by some as a hero and by others as a tyrant. He had turned the Soviet Union into a world power, but also ruled with fear. In the next and final chapter, we will look at the last days of Joseph Stalin, his death, and the legacy he left behind for Russia and the world. Chapter 10: Stalin's Death and His Shadow on History. Joseph Stalin ruled the Soviet Union for nearly 30 years. He changed the country in many ways. Some people called him a great leader, while others called him a cruel dictator. By the early 1950s, Stalin was old and sick. He no longer trusted anyone, not even his closest friends. He believed that enemies were everywhere, even inside his own government. He continued to arrest and punish people until the very end of his life. On March 1, 1953, Stalin had a stroke. He fell on the floor in his room and could not move or speak. His guards were too afraid to enter the room without permission, so they waited for hours. When they finally called doctors, it was too late. Stalin died on March 5, 1953, at the age of 74. His death shocked the Soviet Union. For many people, Stalin was like a god. His face was in schools, offices, and homes. His name was in songs, books, and newspapers. People were taught to love him. When they heard he had died, many cried. Some went to his funeral in Moscow, and the crowds were so big that people were crushed. Others felt secretly happy or relieved, but they could not say it out loud. After Stalin's death, a new leader named Nikita Khrushchev slowly took power. A few years later, in 1956, Khrushchev gave a secret speech. In this speech, he told the truth about Stalin's rule. He said that Stalin had killed many innocent people and used fear to control the country. This speech shocked the whole world. People began to ask questions. Why did no one stop him? Why did so many believe him? Stalin's legacy, or his shadow, was very big. He turned the Soviet Union into a superpower. He helped win World War II. He built factories, roads, and weapons. But he also caused the deaths of millions. He sent people to the gulag, created famines, and ruled with fear. Families were broken, and many lives were lost. In Russia and around the world, people still debate about Stalin. Some believe he was a strong leader who protected his country. Others believe he was one of history's cruelest dictators. Statues of Stalin were removed in many cities, but in some places, people still honor him. Today, historians continue to study Stalin's life and rule. They read old documents and listened to stories from people who lived during his time. The world tries to learn from the past, so such mistakes are not made again. Stalin's story is both powerful and painful. It teaches us how one man's dream for a strong country brought great change, but also great suffering. His name remains one of the most remembered in history, not just in Russia, but around the world. This is the end of our journey through the life of Joseph Stalin, a man who shaped a nation, and whose shadow still touches the world today. Vocabularies. 1. Revolution. Meaning, a big and sudden change in government or way of life, often with violence. Example: the Russian Revolution changed the country forever. 2. Dictator. Meaning, a leader who has complete control over a country and does not allow freedom. Example: Stalin ruled the Soviet Union as a dictator. 3. Gulag. Meaning, a system of prison camps in the Soviet Union where people were forced to work. Example: many people were sent to the Gulag for speaking against Stalin. 4. Propaganda. Meaning, messages or information used to control what people think, often not true. Example: the Soviet government used propaganda to make people believe Stalin was a hero. 5. Purge. Meaning, the act of removing or killing people who are seen as enemies. Example: during the Great Purge, Stalin removed many people from the government. 6. Industrialization. Meaning, the process of building factories and making a country stronger in machines and industry. Example: Stalin used the 5-year plans to speed up industrialization. 7. Supremacy. Meaning, the state of being the most powerful or most important. Example: Stalin wanted the Soviet Union to achieve world supremacy. 8. Confession. Meaning, saying that you did something wrong or bad. Example: many people were forced to make false confessions during Stalin's rule. 9. Capitalism. Meaning, an economic system where people can own businesses and make money freely. Example: the United States followed capitalism, which was different from Soviet communism. 10. Legacy. Meaning, what someone leaves behind after they die, their actions, ideas, or impact on the world. Example: Stalin's legacy is still debated by historians today. Questions. 1. Where was Joseph Stalin born? 2. What secret name did Stalin choose for himself during his early revolutionary years? 3. What was the name of the war fought between the Bolsheviks and their enemies after the 1917 revolution? 4. Who was Stalin's main rival in the power struggle after Lenin's death? 5. What event marked the beginning of the Great Purge in 1934? 6. What was the name of Stalin's plan to increase industry and farming in 5-year periods? 7. What was the name of the prison camp system used during Stalin's rule? 8. What name was given to the war between the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany? 9. What speech in 1946 said that Europe was divided by an Iron Curtain? 10. What year did Stalin die? Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed learning with us. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends and family. Your support helps us grow and bring you more inspiring stories and easy English learning content. Do you have a topic you'd like us to cover in our next video? Maybe a famous person, an invention, or a country? Let us know in the comments or messages. We'd love to hear your ideas. You can find answers in the description. Thanks again, and keep learning with us. See you in the next video.